Today's guest is a filmmaker, cystic fibrosis advocate, and public speaker. Please welcome to the Zoom, Grace-Rose Bauer.
Hi,
Hello, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh my gosh, of course. Thank you for having me.
So we always start behind the resume by talking about how we met, and we got connected through our mutual friend, Grace Weather, who is also a behind the resume alum.
Yeah.
But I actually have known of you for a very long time. I knew of Rosie G Fashion, which we can talk about, but I
Yeah.
have been aware of you and of your work, and you are a very impressive person, just like maybe it runs in the name Grace, because all the Graces I know are pretty incredible, but I'm really excited to learn more about you and get to share your story.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, you're so sweet.
Let's just start from the beginning. Where are you from?
I'm from Los Angeles, California.
Okay, so born and raised LA.
Born in New Orleans, actually, and
Oh,
then moved to Los Angeles when I was turning 3, after Hurricane Katrina,
oh, wow.
and stayed. So raised my whole life there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So is that why you moved to LA because of the hurricane?
Yeah. Well, in 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit, and we ended up going to California to visit
Uh-huh.
family and pretty much stayed just because with cystic fibrosis, which I have, is life-threatening disease, attacks the lungs, digestive system, and pretty much everything else. I needed doctors and medication at the time, and none of my doctors in New Orleans had returned. So in
Mm.
order to get the healthcare that I needed, we needed an address there, and
Oh,
we ended
wow.
up, yeah, so we found a place, and it was supposed to be temporary. And then I ended up going to elementary school, middle school, high school, and stayed my whole life.
Yeah. Do you have any siblings?
I don't. I'm an only child.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were little, did you have dreams of being in LA and being in the industry and working in film?
No,
Really?
I did not. I mean, I grew up there my whole life, so because I don't, I mean, I honestly don't remember anything like of the 2 years I lived in New Orleans. I did come back often. I'm here right now, actually, for Mardi Gras, but I did come back often to visit family, um, like about, 4 times a year. And so it's a big part of my life growing up, but I didn't spend much time here. So in Los Angeles, I obviously you kind of can't escape the
Yeah.
industry. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just everywhere, and it's like, you've got friends who are actors in it, you've got friends whose parents work in it. And then I didn't get into film until my senior year of high school, and
Wow.
I grew up doing musical theater.
Okay, me too.
So love it.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. From my first production I ever did was the summer of going into kindergarten. So I
What
did
show is
Cystic
it?
the musical,
Musical? I
a
was a
classic, which
girl.
I ended up
Yeah.
doing 2 more times, sort of against my will. But a blast nonetheless.
Mhm.
And I grew up doing musical theater 13 years. I did 1 to 2 productions every year from
Mhm.
kindergarten up until my junior year of high school when COVID hit and canceled the production
Wow.
I was in.
What show were you in at the time?
Legally Blonde.
Oh, were you Vivian?
Yes.
I could tell. I could see it. I could see it.
That's so funny. Yeah, and I'm
Aw.
so heartbroken I didn't get to do it, but like rehearsals up until then was a blast.
When were you guys gonna open? Was it like near when the shutdown happened?
Yeah, it was a month before our
Oh,
show was going to open.
oh, it's a bummer. And this is
Yeah.
at high school?
So this was a program that I did outside of school. I growing up I did half and half. So I did a production in school and then outside of school. In elementary school I did 2 productions a year. There was a theater program. I went to Carpenter Elementary in
Okay.
Studio City. Um Best time of my life, honestly. And I did like a little after school program where you like audition for the program and then you do the shows, and they did 2 productions a year, and so there was like I think it was like 1 per semester. And then I kind of like fell in love with
Mhm.
theater and the stage. And then going into middle school, actually it's weird because we were going to move back to New Orleans after
Oh,
elementary school. We were like, okay, well, did that. And like, now that I have to like apply to middle schools, we might as well like go back and, whatever. But a friend of mine who was a year older than she was doing like the theater programs with me at school. She had auditioned and started school at Milliken Middle School, which is a like multi-academy. They have like different programs at the school, like math and science and like film and all that kind of stuff, but they had a performing arts academy, so they did like music, dance, theater, singing. And so she was in that program and was telling me all about it. And I as a little fifth grader was like, yeah, that sounds like, fantastic. Like I just was on this high. And so I applied and got in, and my mom was like, okay, guess we're staying, and from then I had such a great time in that program. I was living life, doing like, I had singing, acting, dancing classes. And then since I did the musical theater department, we did 2 productions a year in that as well. And then going into high school was like a bit crazy for me. But I did programs outside of high school. And like summer programs I did were not related to school as well. But high school, I started at a small private school, left like after first semester just because it wasn't for me. I ended up homeschooling for that second semester. So I did theater like outside of school programs and loved that, with like a different program that I ended up staying with for a while. And then and then my sophomore year, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back to school. Like I missed the social environment. I really love school. So I went back to school. I went to a giant public school, John Burroughs in Burbank, and then did musical theater in that, and then outside as well. And then I ended up homeschooling second semester again.
Really?
Because there were other students there with cystic fibrosis. And so the thing with kids with CF is you're not, or anybody with CF, is you're not supposed to be around each other. Basically, the rule is 6 feet, but that's
why is that?
So everybody with cystic fibrosis has like a different strain of, of it. Basically, there are all these different levels. We all have different mutations of it. And so the thing is, there are different infections that kids could pass to one another, which were very contagious. And there's, the like different levels of it. So there are some that are more severe, some that are treatable. So you never know who has what. And no, you can't tell looking at somebody that they have cystic fibrosis. And it's not really a opening topic when you're the new kid in school and trying to meet people.
And were you born with this?
Yeah. So it's genetic, and it's passed down from both your parents. They both have to have the gene, but even then there's only a 25% chance that their child will have it. So it's very small. It's about 30,000 in the US, 70,000 worldwide. So it's not popular. It's not like the disease to have, but I started, advocating, and my mom started fundraising when I was so young because of how small this was. And so when I was at the high school, it was just something that I, didn't really realize would come into contact with the students so often. It's such a big school. The nurse, we worked it all out. None of the kids, they couldn't tell us names, gender, grade, or anything. And I was like, okay, here's my picture. Here's my name. Here's my grade. Here is my class schedule. Give it to the kids. Like if they don't want anybody knowing, put it on blast. You can put it up in the walls, put it on milk cartons, like just let everybody know, because I, not only just for me, but I don't want them to get anything that I have. And at the time I was like currently treating a lung infection, which is somewhat common, but it's also, there's nothing that I could do. It's not contagious to anybody but somebody with CF. So it was just kind of, it was hard. And I loved, being at school, and I loved the school and everything, but I was getting so anxious about, it literally being life or death. I do treatments every day. I take medications daily. And I, have checkups every 3 months. But other than that, there's nothing that I can't do. And there's nothing that it really stops me, especially since starting the new medication in 2019. Trikafta has been, a great help for a ton of people with CF. It's definitely the closest, trajectory to a cure that we have right now. So that's great. That's fantastic. Round of applause to the scientists. But yeah, that's, kind of the daily. It's like about 3 hours of treatment a day,
Wow.
45 pills a day.
Wow.
Um,
What does the treatment look like?
so I have a vest, which is like a fancy little jacket I wear, and it buckles. And then when I turn it on, it breaks up the mucus in my lungs. So it just like shakes my whole body. And then I have a nebulizer, which is more common. And that I do like 3 solutions, which I inhale through my mouth, and it's to clear the airways. So
Mhm.
they kind of like double team work at the same time.
Have you found a community of people like online?
Yes, but it's really hard to connect with people the same way, especially I don't know, maybe for me, and it could be different for everybody, but it's, I don't know. It's definitely been a bit hard. I do follow like-minded people with CF who are all about advocating and, public speaking.
Mm.
Um, and that's great to know. But it's also, so different between everybody that it's
Yeah.
still kind of, I don't know, it's still different to everyone. So I haven't found, like there's nobody that I really talk to a lot about it. Um, other than my doctors, but even they don't know,
Yeah.
so it's been a little kind of distant
Mm.
and isolating, but that's what's great about having Grace as, my best friend, my close friend. Like we both have an invisible illness, not the same, but we, have so many similar situations and doctor's appointments and experiences, and socially as well as, on our own. It's like there are so many things that we can relate to, that having that is really like helpful.
How did you guys meet?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago. I hold fashion show fundraisers for cystic fibrosis. I have a foundation, the Grace-Rose Foundation. I'm not a narcissist. It was just the easiest thing we could come up with at the time. And I had a clothing line. So we did both of these things together. I did fashion shows for my foundation every summer.
Oh my gosh,
And
you just described your whole childhood as being so busy with school and so busy with theater. And I like, oh yeah, and then I had a foundation, like fashion shows. And when did
I
you do
I
all this?
I thrived off of being busy. It never felt like work. It was just always play. So I never felt overwhelmed at any time. Like I only have positive memories from all of this. And like
Wow.
I always say that if I had to do it all over again, I would. Like I wouldn't have asked for a different childhood. And so I, truly like all of it has led me to who I am today, kind of thing. And I'm, I'm accepting where I am now. And there are things that I love and things that I'm still working through. Um, but again, I couldn't, have asked for a different childhood. And I I say this as like a 20-year-old, and I feel like it's very common, but I'm like, I would go back any day. Give me like 20 minutes of just like any of it. I would do it again.
Yeah.
And so we met through social media, actually. That's how everybody meets now. We met on Instagram when I was like looking for models to model in the fashion show. And she had reached out, and she was living in Minnesota at the time, but she was going to be in Los Angeles for the summer because they were moving. And I was like, yeah, the more the merrier. There was like a little connection after kind of like finding out that, she had her brain tumor, and I, had CF. and we met the first time was at the fashion show the day of,
Wow.
and we weren't friends. Like we maybe like talked for a minute, but we didn't really become close until I'd say like a year or two later. And she was like looking, for, or maybe it was like 3 years later. Like we just knew each other and we were friends on social media, but we were still distant, like long distance social media friends. And then a few years later, she was looking for apartments to move to Los Angeles on her own. Like I think she was like 15 or
Wow.
maybe like 15 or 16. I don't know. Felt illegal, but she's independent. She always has been. And I don't know how she does that, but she was staying with me. She stayed
Oh,
with me for a few weeks while she was looking for places and working. And obviously when somebody's living in your bedroom, you kind of just,
yeah.
become like bunkmates. And so from then on, we just were really, really close
Oh,
up
I love
until she
that.
like found her place and moved. And even though we're like long distance friends again, not really, but just because I'm now at school in New York, she's still in LA.
Mhm.
We, talk every day, FaceTime for way too long, all of it.
Oh, I love that. So when did fashion become an interest for you?
So my mother, she grew up in the fashion industry.
Oh,
She went to FIT and then shortly after, which is Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And then shortly after that, she, worked in like for Fila in Hong Kong, and she
wow.
literally went all over the place. I clearly did not get that independent travel bug from her. Wish I did, because I find that incredible. She did all of that on her own. Um, but then she, had a line and was going back and forth between Los Angeles and New York. And then, after deciding she, as a single mother, was going to settle down in LA and have me there or raise me there. After Katrina, she had a clothing line still, had a store. And then when I was 10 years old, like she was hosting these fashion show fundraisers since I was 9 months old. They were with her line or other lines of, friends that she knew. And so when I was 10 years old, I was like, hey, I want to design a collection. Like I've watched you do this my whole life. I
Uh-huh.
grew up going to showrooms and going
Uh-huh.
to, like fashion shows and trunk shows. And just, I grew up watching her do it all, that I was like, I got this. Like,
You were
I want
10.
to do it. I was 10.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Um, don't know why she let me do it, but she did. And I designed like a little like 10-piece collection, I think.
Gosh.
I'm just like picturing the clothes that were on the runway. It was pretty atrocious.
Oh,
But it was, it was fun. And so the event became so much more family friendly oriented, and like children and everything like that. And so from then on, we auctioned off pieces at the end of that collection, and people were like, oh my God, where can we buy this all the time? Like year round. My mom and I were like, uh, yeah, let's,
uh-huh.
sure,
And the
we've
brand
got
was
the
called
place.
Rosie G.
Yeah, we called it
So
Rosie
cute.
G. That was my alter ego at the time when I was a kid. Because I'm Cuban and Afro-Cuban and white. And so my mom was like, there's always this little like, whenever I like was dancing or singing, she's like, there's always this little like, Cuban side that comes out. She's like, it's very not me. And and she just named it Rosie G.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah, that's where the name
So
of the line
cute.
came from.
So this fashion brand started taking off when you were 10 years old. That's, I
Taking
mean,
off is a strong word,
well,
but
the design, I mean, that's just incredible. What
thank
was
you.
your inspiration behind the pieces?
Pinterest.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
was I spent a lot of time on Pinterest when I was young. And then obviously like when I was in middle school, that's a very interesting time for personal growth,
Everything. Yeah. Yeah.
So I honestly was like, what are people wearing? What are the cool kids wearing? Like, what's, what feels really popular, and kind of taking that and, making my own twist on it, and just making things that were like, I loved, but making them kind of very young and, more conservative for kids kind of way.
Yeah.
But it was really just like, I think I was always like, it's cute, colorful, and comfortable. Like that was what I was very picky about what I wore. And so being able to kind of bring like, trends and like what everybody's wearing into a more like comfortable, personal way was kind of what I did. And then when I started selling to Nordstrom's and Bloomingdale's, that
At what, age 11?
I think I had my first meeting when I was 13. And
Oh my gosh. That
it
is
was
unbelievable. That is incredible. So
oh
when
my
you
God.
say, so, speaking as someone who knows absolutely nothing about fashion or how anything is made, when you say designed a clothing line,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Do you draw it out and send it to a manufacturer? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so I had little sketchbooks, and I, would dedicate the time that I was doing my treatments, I would dedicate that to, doing something creative, because nobody wants to do their homework and a treatment at the same time. Nobody wants to do homework or treatment, period. So really putting those together was not a great use of time. So I would turn to my creative outlet. I would draw. My mother and I would go, luckily living in Los Angeles, they've got the great, fashion district downtown. So it's an interesting place if you go, but it's full of, fabric and, design samples and everything. So we would dedicate like time in the week to go downtown and like pick samples for the designs that I had kind of come up with. And my biggest thing was how it felt. So I'd like walk around like feeling everything. And then I'd, get sample swatches, and, you get like however many yards of fabric that is needed to make a sample piece of the design.
Wow.
So if I drew a dress and, maybe it was like I needed a few yards, we'd go downtown, we'd pick, the fabric and the material that I pictured for the dress, get the sample yards, and then we would take it to we worked with, or in the earlier years, we worked with a seamstress who my mother worked with growing or doing her collection when she was, just moved to LA. So I knew this woman from birth. I was very young and knew her. And she would do some of the sample pieces, which then we would kind of take to the factory, which everything was manufactured in downtown Los Angeles.
Wow.
So we would manufacture with a factory that would do the bulk of the production. And that's what, we would send out to Nordstrom's or Bloomingdale's, or it would be on the website.
So you went to Nordstrom's and saw your clothes at the store?
I did. It was so cool. I mean, like I did a trunk show, and I would do pop-up shops and events with them. But yeah, the first time I ever went, it was funny because my mom, that TikTok is so, this is so
I'm not on TikTok, so I'm not gonna know.
Okay, well, I have to say this. There's like this TikTok sound, and good for you, because I spend way too much time on there. And it's like it's this like sound that's like, what would happen if you just called Taylor up? And like it's talking about like calling Taylor Swift, and like just like it's the kind of obliviousness of older people today being like, oh, if you want to work for them, just like call them. Like it's like, okay, you want to be on Broadway, just call Broadway.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what my mother did. She had, found the buyers for the children's department at Nordstrom, and she was like, hey, I got a possible designer collection for you, would you like to see it? And they were like, oh, okay. Like she sent like like images of the line sheets. They were like, yeah, sure, that's so cool. And it's like, it gives back, it's for cystic fibrosis, proceeds go to CF Foundation.
Wow.
And they were like, yeah, our headquarters are in Seattle, so we've got like slight not a lot of time that we can meet. My mom was like, oh my God, perfect. We're in Seattle this week. Like let's totally meet. We weren't in Seattle. We
Oh,
went to Seattle and, went into their offices, and I got to put they have like these grids on the wall of like bars to hang your pieces on. So they give you like 15, 20 minutes to set up, and then you display your line sheets, which are kind of just like lookbooks of your collection and the technical information. And I presented, the theater background really came in handy with this. Presented
wow.
my clothes and line sheets, and it kind of went from there.
Oh my gosh. Your journey just of like the hurricane coming to LA and fashion and theater and how it all intertwines is just, it's like magical. And I just love your outlook on things and how much you treasured your childhood. And your mom sounds amazing.
She
And
is.
sometimes it
She's my
does.
best friend.
Oh, and sometimes you literally just have to call, because the worst thing that happens is like you get told no or get no answer at all, and you're gonna survive, you know?
Yeah, those are the worst things, but
Right.
yes, you do make
Right.
it through.
So while you're balancing school, CF, musical theater, your fashion line, what did you envision as your long-term career?
I had no idea.
Mhm.
I knew that I didn't want to like be on Broadway. That wasn't like, my end
Really?
goal. Yeah, that
Why?
I growing up, I didn't think I could because of so much treatments that I do and just the kind of unknowingness of CF, like anything could happen at any time sort of thing. Like you could, a lot of people do have to live in the hospital or, do frequent hospital visits and stays. And so it was, it's really a gamble and you never know what's going to happen. So I think growing up, I was like, it's not something I could do. And the chronic fatigue wasn't going to help. So I never really thought that I would do that. And I was okay with that. It wasn't like, oh, my dreams are crushed. It
Mhm.
was just like something that I was like, all right, let's find something else. I wanted to be a second grade teacher growing
Oh,
up. That's what I wanted to do as a career.
uh,
And I, I'm not doing that now, but that's what I wanted to do when I grew up.
wow. So now
Mm.
you're at NYU in the film
Yes.
school?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when did
Jumped over
filmmaking
there.
come into your life?
This is when Grace and I became very close, and like she had a big influence on how I was introduced to film.
Wow.
In quarantine, actually, I was applying to colleges at the time. I didn't get a chance to take the SATs or ACTs. So I was relying heavily on, because, schools just didn't offer that for my year because of COVID. So I was relying heavily on my auditions. I auditioned to colleges because I was like, I know that I don't want to, be in musical theater as a career, but I wanted to be an actor. I love acting. I've done it for so long that I was like, I love this. Let's milk it for as long as I can, because I don't know how much time I have to do this. I don't know if I could do this. And so I was like, I'll go to college for, musical theater and theater and just do it, because I don't have much longer to do that. If it's not a career, I don't have much longer to do it. So I was applying to colleges. I only applied to schools in New York because
Oh,
growing up, I knew that's where, sorry, that's my
that's
dog.
okay.
growing up, I knew that that's where I wanted to go to school. I, spent so much time in Los Angeles that I was like, I want to go somewhere else for college.
Mhm.
And I didn't really see myself living anywhere else. And so that's kind of how that came. And I didn't get into film until I had finished all of my applications for college.
Wow.
And I started watching one movie, a different movie every day in quarantine. I like made a watch list just to
Mhm.
like keep the nights different, because otherwise it was
Mhm.
pretty similar.
Yeah.
So every night I would watch a different movie on my list. Sometimes Grace and I would do like, we'd watch them together and do like, that Netflix party thing that came out.
Yeah. Mhm.
So we would do that, or we would like Zoom and watch movies. I love this feeling. Like I haven't had this feeling since performing on stage. Like,
What were
what
the
is
movies?
this? Um, okay. This is gonna sound ridiculous, but it's the musical theater kid in me.
Of
I
course.
rewatched The Greatest Showman,
Okay.
and for whatever reason, I cried. Still can't tell you why, but I had this, like, I think it was really just like I was missing, performing and everything. And it was just like kind of hit close to home sort of thing. And I had this like instant boost of serotonin, and I was like, oh my God, I love this feeling. Like, this is so magical, whatever. And like, there were a couple of other films that, like, shortly became my favorite. Like Whiplash, the feeling I had watching that entire movie, pure anxiety though. Uh, but I loved it. It's the passion and the, about music and everything. And then like Lady Bird and
Yeah.
Booksmart felt very like those became comfort movies.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I want to do that. Like, I want to create the way that I feel watching this
Mhm.
for other people. Like, that's incredible. My favorite thing to do when I was younger was make people laugh. And so this kind of had like a very similar feeling. And so
When did fashion fade away?
fashion faded away when I applied to school, because in 2020, um, Bloomingdale's is like, we're not buying anything anymore. And so that's when we kind of like parted ways with that.
Mhm.
Uh, and it felt bittersweet because I was able to then like go to college and like pursue new things. But it was also like, wow, end of an era, you know?
It's still a
And
part of your future, you
it's
think?
not.
Oh.
I have I don't do it anymore.
Uh-huh.
I did it for, like I did it for almost 10 years. And so it's kind of like I already had a career in it. That
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
absolutely
No,
ridiculous.
at 13, you're in business meetings with the head of Nordstrom's. That's amazing.
Right. No, it sounds ridiculous, but it was like it was like, okay, time to try something new. And that's honestly when I started making films, as I was like, oh, I really want to write something like this. And I did. And Grace and she helped me film my first short film ever.
Mm.
Um, and that's when I, got into film. And after my first year of college, I didn't like my school. And so I like started applying. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. Like, if I'm not acting at school, like, what do I do? And so I applied to 2 film schools, and luckily one of them worked out. So
Yeah, NYU.
I love it. I love it so much. I'm very happy there. I love my classes. I love my friends. It's good. It's good for me. Not
Wow.
good for my bank account, but that's if I'm gonna be in debt, might as well have had fun. So
What does a typical week for you look like at school?
I love it. I have quite a few days or time off this semester, even though I'm taking more credits than last semester. But since last semester was busier, I did like Monday, I had 2 night classes. I was taking a screenwriting class and a Black image in cinema class, which is a history and criticism class. And then Tuesdays, I had no class. Wednesdays, I had class 9 to 5. It was one class, a production class, and it was studio. So we were writing scripts or like skits and filming, episodic styled in like 3 camera studios.
Wow.
That was so much fun. I loved that class. It was a lot of work because, you're on your feet for a long time, and like, but I learned so much, like the control rooms and technical and like lighting and everything. It was a lot of fun. And then I had that class Wednesday and Friday. So 9 to 5, Wednesdays and Fridays. And then Thursdays, I had a screenwriting class again.
Mhm.
So it's it's a lot, but it's also like the whole time I'm just doing everything that I really love to do.
Right.
And right now I'm taking a screenwriting class, a television writing class. I have, a gen ed, which is super
Mhm.
fun, but at least all my friends are in it. And yeah, I don't know. And then, yeah, it's all fun.
What was your first film about?
Oh my God. Well, this is My first film was about a girl with cystic fibrosis in quarantine. I still, with that, I still do events to this day, and actually planning one for this summer, which is our first one since COVID, because it's been so hard getting like 400 people in the same place again. Like
Is it
it's
going to be in LA?
yes. And we're doing like little events throughout the year as well. We're planning one in New York and one in New Orleans.
Wow.
So I'll keep you posted. I'd love to have
Yeah.
you.
What happens at the events?
So at my big events, we do like usually we did the fashion show element. So we're
Okay.
planning something different for this year.
Mhm.
And then we do awards, or a new thing where we like to present people awards in terms of just kind of their advocacy that they've done in the world and their fundraising and all the good that they've done, because it's important to
Yeah.
support other
Yeah.
people as well. And
Totally.
so this year, a big part of the fundraiser is mental health as well as cystic fibrosis. That's something that I got into shortly before quarantine, because I was I was in like ninth grade, I think, when I started getting into like therapy and meditating and all of that. And I wanted to build an app. And so I'm still working on it. And so that's part of the element that goes into the fundraising. And yeah, and so this year it'll be a little bit different, but I think it'll still be fun. I don't know.
What is the
I'm
app
trying
for?
so the app is for mental health for teenagers and young adults, and it's just kind of this like one-stop shop to figuring out where you can start and what can help, because everybody's dealing with something different, which
Mhm.
is insanely hard to one identify, like yourself. Like it's really hard to understand
Right.
what these emotions or feelings or thoughts are. It's really hard to understand. And then the second thing is therapy is expensive. it
Mhm.
is it is so expensive, number one, and
Yeah.
number two, it's insanely hard to find the right therapist to help you, and the
Yeah.
right therapist who knows kind of where, like, what you need in order to get better, and in order not even to get better, but just in order to like help and to work throughout the day. And so for me, this is kind of everything that I've learned. I've been through therapists and over many years, and so it's kind of everything that I've learned in one place, everything that I've heard from other people in one place, with music and meditation, and it's all directed to young adults and teenagers, because a lot of the therapy apps are, directed towards adults, and that's fantastic. But kids aren't dealing with anxiety related to, work and bills, and, maybe they are, but that's not as common. And so that's what I found. Like a lot of adult apps are geared towards things that adults are dealing with, versus teenagers and young adults are dealing with, social environments, social media, like
Mhm.
a lot about their, presence and drugs and alcohol experimenting and all of that, which
Yeah.
is really hard to also confide in an adult
Yeah.
who
Totally.
has not experienced those things. So it's for teens by, at the time I was a teen, but young adults
Oh
now.
my gosh. And then you're also a public speaker.
Yeah.
Have you done a TED Talk?
I haven't. I don't think I could do that. Grace did
What?
that. Kudos to
You
her.
totally could.
That is terrifying. Okay. I don't know about that. That seems like a nightmare to me. Like, I
Really?
would love to do it, but it
Uh,
seems like maybe that's why I need to do it, because I'm so afraid to do it. I just have to go for it.
what makes you afraid of it?
The fact that, okay, I am such a self-conscious person. So the fact that like I am standing solely by myself in a room and everybody's looking at me. And
You do
like
theater.
I know, but you've got an ensemble. Like I
Yeah.
I don't know. I need people to back me up. Like
Isn't it
I
so interesting though? Like you love theater and being on stage and having all these people watch you express yourself. Do you think it's because on stage you're playing a character and giving a TED Talk,
yes,
you're sharing your own
100%.
story?
100%. Like
Mm,
if people are like, "Oh, she's really weird." I'm like, "Great, then I'm doing a great job with this character."
right.
But if people are like, if I'm on stage like being me and somebody's like, "She's really weird," then I'm like, like, I don't know what to
Yeah,
do.
totally.
But
Totally.
I've done that a lot with my public speaking has been with Children's Hospital Los Angeles. I've done a lot of advocacy with them and their event Make March Matter. I've worked with the CF Foundation. I've become the ambassador to their largest West Coast fundraiser, which is called California Wine Masters. I've done that for a long time. I love that. It's a great environment. Not because everybody's drunk, but because people are just, seeing everybody there supporting cystic fibrosis is just, when it's like thousands of people, it's a wild thought to see all these people who just want to help. It's crazy. And then, I've started most recently working with Make-A-Wish, and I started working with them in 2019, and I host some of their events. I've been hosting red carpet events for them and, speaking there. Love that so much.
You are amazing. Like you really are. Your drive and I know I already said this, but like your outlook is just, it's so inspiring. What would you tell a 10, 11-year-old who's struggling with CF and doesn't have a support system?
I honestly find a creative outlet. I think that saved me. I mean, I had fashion, but also I had theater, and singing and dancing, and any time that I was like on stage, I was playing a character and I felt like somebody else. And so I didn't have to, think about the medications and think of the treatments, because I had that opportunity to be a different person for a minute. And so having a creative outlet, even sports, a lot of people turn to athletics, which is incredible. That finding something, even a hobby, something that's, you're passionate about, that makes you happy, even, really putting any energy that, makes you nervous or, on edge or uncomfortable about CF or your disease, or to anybody who's going through something, having something that makes you smile is really important. And just, it can do so much, especially over time.
You need to do a TED Talk. And when you do, we'll look back at this video and say, oh, so glad that you did it, because it would be amazing. You have to do it.
You're so sweet.
Thank
you.
If your 10-year-old self could see you now, what do you think she'd say?
She's like, what are you doing? I mean, she'd be kudos to, going to college in New York, because that's something I've always wanted to do, but definitely never saw myself as a filmmaker. And now it's the only thing I can ever see myself doing for the rest of my life. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What is the dream? What is your why? I know you said you want to, create films that make people feel how films have made you feel. So is there a certain story that you want to share on a larger platform with your films?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them come from like underrepresented stories that I see, that I think should be in the media. And so for me, I think that's really important. But I mean, the dream is to be a writer and director of photography. So, yeah.
Who are some of your dream colleagues?
Oh my gosh. Maybe like, okay, well, this sounds ridiculous, but in terms of like director of photography, I love Wes Anderson's style. I it's so satisfying and it's beautiful. So I would love to even just be like a dust speck in his camera lens. I think
a dust speck in his camera lens.
Yeah, like a fly on the wall. I think that would be incredible.
I haven't heard that. I love that.
I think that would be so cool. I would love to do something with him, work with him, even just like run and get him a coffee. I mean, and then storytelling. I'd love to like talk to like Greta Gerwig. I don't know. I love her work. I don't know. I think that would be really fun. There's so many people, honestly. There are so many like shows and projects that I want. Like I'd love to like watch the making of Wednesday. I loved that show. That was so pretty. I'd love to see how they did a lot of that. Things like that. I don't know. I'm very much trying to soak it all in and like see what everybody does in these, projects, to kind of make myself indispensable and maybe be like, oh yeah, I could do that. Do you need help with something? I got you.
Yeah. So you write, direct, act.
So I mean, I would love to act. That's, always been my first passion. But right now I would like to write and kind of direct the camera. So
Mm,
director of photography is in charge of kind of, the vision of what the cinematographer is capturing.
mhm.
And so that as somebody who has written a project for me, it's kind of become like a little baby, like you really want to watch it grow up and make
Yeah,
sure it like does and looks like you envisioned and all of
yeah.
that. So being the director of photography, I always envision the film when I'm writing it. So I think it would be really meaningful for me to be able to kind of reflect how I saw it when I was writing it.
So for those who might not know, there's the director who's directing the actors, right? And the director who's directing, like you said, director of photography. Can you just explain? Because I know that my grandma watches all these interviews and she always loves when hi grandma, but she always loves when I ask these kind of questions
Hi.
so she can learn,
Of
people watching
course.
this, I'm sure a lot of them are actors who already know, but for those who might not know, can you explain what that role is? Versus a director.
Yeah. So a director is, I mean, mostly known for directing the actors. They are also in charge of, making sure everybody on set knows what's going on and what they're doing and making sure that everybody is on track and has the same vision and trajectory for the day and the rest of the film or show. But they do work very closely with the actors to engage them in their performance and kind of pull out the best in their performance and ability and character, and make sure that they understand who they're playing and what world they're in and what their story is, and just kind of guiding them into their role. A director of photography works very closely with the cinematographer, who's in charge of the camera and the equipment, and making sure everything is being recorded and looks the way it does. And the director of photography works a lot in terms of when it comes to storyboarding, making sure that their visions align with the director's vision and everything looks the way that they planned and looks the way that it should, and keeps the tone throughout the film.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. What are the big career and life goals?
I okay, so this is a stretch. I would love to um like have sold or work on a film before I graduate college. That
Oh,
as a
okay.
writer, that would be, or even like I just want to work on something, large and meaningful before I
Uh-huh.
graduate. And it's stretching it. And I'm putting this out there
That's
and
okay.
I may laugh at myself later, but
No, amazing. You can absolutely.
that's that's one of my goals. And then, just in the future, I'd love to stay busy and continue doing it for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I always end with this question. It's my favorite question. What do you want your legacy to be?
Whoa.
I know.
Um, I don't know. I think a really important thing for me is um I think through advocating and educating for cystic fibrosis to then becoming a filmmaker and advocating for everyone else in the world and for somebody's story out there. I think that it's really important that I wasn't just kind of recognized as, oh, the girl with CF, or oh, the girl who was sick, or, I think it would be really important to be recognized as somebody who, took lemons and made lemonade, like who did something and kind of took this really, hard negative situation and kind of made light with it. I think that that's really important because I can't just sit and kind of, drown myself in the thoughts of being sick and having CF and how anything could happen at any time. So it's really important for me to stay positive and like work towards my goals and in the future. So I think that would be really important, is to kind of be seen as somebody who, just kind of tried to stay positive, if you will.
I will be in the audience at your TED Talk. That is beautiful. Grace-Rose, thank you so much for
Thank
doing
you for
this, for
having
sharing.
me.
Anyone who's good friends with Grace Weather is going to be this incredible. So I'm not surprised at all by how amazing you are. And I'm just so excited to continue following your journey. Where can people keep up with you and see your art?
You guys can keep up with me on Instagram, just Grace-Rose Bauer. And every once in a while, I post my work from school on my YouTube, which has 2 subscribers, my mother and Grace included. And yeah, it's just a fun place to kind of like put everything. Same with my Instagram. It's more for fun.
Uh-huh. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. It was so nice talking to you.